So recently in California, or currently in California, we have had a lot of issues with the police going on. And I found something very interesting. We just got body cam footage of another unjustified police murder of Mario Gonzalez. And, what does the right do? The right's covering police right now. So what did the right do? Did they cover this story and talk about how wrong this is and why we need police reform? No, they covered a story and they're all reeing because an officer got called meanie words. I don't care. This is what they're supposed to deal with. They're supposed to deal with non-compliant, rude people. I don't care that they were called meanie words. I am making a video on this because I want to show you how ridiculous the right is being. Now, there's a lot of people on this story. I'm going to pick out Matt Welsh's story because it is the most ridiculous of all the takes. Because I can't do all of them because it would take way too long. Let me just put it to you this way. If you're cheering for this cop because he did his job, like, what do I say to that? We're cheering for people because they can do their job now? Let me tell you, if you really think this is a problem, I don't want that cop. Now, he handled it professionally. He handled it fine. The lady was being a racist bitch. Like, there's no denying that. She just starts whiling. So this isn't directed at this officer. I'm directing at the right. That you really think if this is a problem for officers, any cop that finds that problematic, I want them all fired. I don't want weak cops. All right? I want mentally, morally, and physically strong officers. I don't want crybabies. But let's get into this. So this is rather unfortunate because I used to like him, but over the last 5 months, he has become the biggest SJW I've ever seen. All the staples of right-wing SJWs. You know, virtue signaling, playing the victim, bootlicking, all that. I'm just going to let you know, I'm going to jump around a little bit for time. He's going to just show the video. It's really short, and I'll just cover it quickly. I'll just tell you what happens. You can watch the video yourself to tell me if I'm taking anything out of context that you don't think is right. So, I just don't want a 30-minute video. I'm trying not to do that.
The correspondent for Fox News, Bill Mulligan, published a video on Monday that helps put things into perspective. This is what life is like for police officers these days. The video is...
Okay, first of all, that's not true. This happens a minority of the time. If you think this is a rampant problem of people who talk like this to police, well, one, I'd have to ask, why do you think people talk like that to police? And two, you haven't lived in the city.
Footage from a body camera worn by a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy. Interestingly enough, the department doesn't require its officers to wear body cameras. This officer chose to wear one for his own protection.
On a side note, does anyone find that problematic with the LAPD? Like, I mean, there's issues of gangbangers in LAPD, and they don't have to wear body cams. That's very interesting.
And it's very good that he made that choice, because recently, a woman called Internal Affairs to file a harassment complaint against him. She claimed that he harassed her during a traffic stop. Unfortunately, the deputy had his camera rolling during that stop, and it becomes very clear very quickly just who is doing the harassing during this interaction.
To give you a quick rundown, officer stops lady for being an idiot and texting while driving like 38 miles an hour. Lady starts whiling, being a bitch, starts getting racist with the cop. Cop was professional, handled it well. This is why I said this is a non-story. And then it's over. That's it. All they want to point out is the lady's a bitch, the cop handled it well. But they're spinning it into like this, look at the bigger problem with police. Police are the real victims of everything going on. That's why I said, like, what? You'll see. Hang on. I'm going to get to that.
Needless to say, this is a man with near superhuman patience.
Superhuman. He got called some names. Apparently that's superhuman patience. Wow. That's how low the bar is now. But alright. Again, this is why I said I want mentally strong officers. And again, this isn't aimed at that cop. This is just saying, if you consider that amazing patience, ooh, I don't want to see what your bar is for officers.
If that were me, I would have given her every ticket I could have possibly justified, and then a few more that I can't. Also probably would have been screaming at her to shut her stupid mouth, because, I'm on the opposite end of the patient spectrum, I have to
Thank God this boy is not a cop, because unfortunately, a lot of LAPD is like that.
admit. But this is the kind of patience that police officers must so often demonstrate. They deal with people like this all the time.
That's actually not true. They don't deal with people like that all the time. This is actually a minority of cases. It's pretty much why this thing is going viral, because you can find tons of videos of stuff like this happening. It's just they want to latch on to this right now because, I don't know, basically the right wants to virtue signal. Like I said, the reason I'm mad about this is because we just had the police fucking murder a dude in California. Alright?
In fact, that was easy compared to how so many other traffic stops have gone, especially in LA.
How does he know that? That's not true. That's not true. He acts like LA is just this place riddled with, like, every stop is just gonna be like, okay, I can tell you've never been to LA because I've dealt with LAPD. This is not how it goes, and I know people in LAPD. This is not normal. So this is just. Let me just go on first.
At least she didn't physically assault the officer or try to shoot him, so that's progress.
I like how that didn't go the other way around. I could say that for the officer. I could say at least the officer didn't rip her out of the car and shoot her. That's progress. Again, because the cops just murdered Mario Gonzalez. Well, didn't just, but the body cam footage came out a couple days ago.
Perhaps this can lend a little bit of perspective. Some police officers are bad, just like some members of every profession are bad. In some professions, the percentage of bad is much higher than others.
Well, actually, that's not true. The good officers cover for bad officers, and that's why I say the majority of cops do contribute to a corrupt system, which is bad. The good cops contribute. They don't report the bad cops. For example, we have complaints of gang members getting into LAPD, and these complaints are basically thrown out, discarded, and covered. Good officers statistically do not cover or do not report bad officers out of fear of retaliation. So now I ask, why is that? If your higher-ups are on your side, maybe not your sheriff, maybe higher up. The corruption's coming from higher up, because if they're on your side, they'll have your back with the good officers. The higher ups will have the good officers back. Problem is the higher ups, especially in LA, are not like that. And I like how it's just like, well, there's some good and some bad. There's good days and bad. Yeah, a lot of times when there's bad days with police, people die. Oh, they just have some bad days, and then people who didn't deserve it actually die. I don't know why that's a dismissal, but all the people who always want to go on oh, actually, you know what? I'll get to that. Hang on.
Professions like academia, for example, riddled with lunatics like this. For police officers, only some are bad. Some, like this deputy, are almost unbelievably good at their jobs. Everyone else falls in between.
So here's an issue I had. Do you like how he just assumed that guy was good at his job because of one traffic stop? Isn't it funny how the right didn't try to go dig up this officer, find his name, and go look into his background? But they'll do it to the victims all the time. This lady's not a victim, but the right's already going to dig up stuff on her, and I think she should be fired. The fact that she's a teacher is fucking terrifying. I'm just noticing you always dig through the background on people. It's hard to find this officer because she says her name, but it's not clear, so I can't find it. But he works under our sheriff here. Our sheriff in LA, fucking dirty cop. Dirty. He's infamous, or even officers tried to get him out. He's infamous for covering for gang members in the police force. He's ignored subpoenas about investigations into criminal activity in the police force. And why didn't the right bring that up? They like to go, I mean, if the police kill someone, their background's all over social media. Well, only certain people, because for some reason, like Daniel Shaver, who didn't do anything wrong, or like Tony Timpa or Christian Hall, they didn't dig up them. They like to dig up Ahmed Arbery, let's see, dug up Willie McCoy, Dante Wright, George Floyd. I'm just noticing a pattern on Orlando Castile. I'm just noticing a pattern on people they dig up. But so basically what I mean is this deputy is directly working under a corrupt cop. So how can you assume he's a good officer off of one traffic stop? I'm just saying the right doesn't lend that courtesy to victims of police violence. Just officers, which I said bootlicking.
They're just normal people doing their best, bad days and good days, successes and failures, getting by as well they can.
And the failures can lead in death. And that's the problem. And that's why a lot of people are angry. But when the right downplays it, it's just a bad day. Or, oh, well, yeah, well, 3 years ago they robbed somebody. That's what they do. All you're doing is making people angrier and not asking for police accountability. He actually made the argument once, which is the dumbest argument I've ever heard, that getting rid of qualified immunity will make sure we only get bad cops and the good cops will quit, which makes literally no sense because without qualified immunity, the officer would directly be responsible for their actions and not be covered by the state. Why would bad officers join knowing that if they did something bad, they would be directly responsible? That doesn't make any sense. The point was, people will file false complaints or anything against officers to get those good officers in trouble all the time. And I'm like, and the judge will see it. It'll say something dumb and the judge will throw it out. Sorry, that was a slight tangent, but you get what I'm saying.
Now, what happens when a normal person is subjected to constant harassment and taunting? What happens when they're forced to encounter the absolute dregs of humanity day in and day out? What happens when they spend all day, every day, dealing with drug addicts, domestic abusers, gangbangers, drunks?
Well, let's see. You're an officer who I want to be mentally strong and I hope you get therapy. Suck it the fuck up. No, you're the big tough guys. Suck it the fuck up. Go to a therapist if you need a therapist. I encourage officers to go see psychiatrists and psychologists for mental health because I want mentally and again, physically, mentally, and morally fit officers. Okay? I don't care they're getting called meanie names. That's their job. If they're supposed to be dealing with the worst of the worst, we don't complain when, say, if you're in the Middle East and you're in a village that clearly don't want you there and they hurl stuff at the soldiers. Do you think you want soldiers that'll be like, I get called mean names all the time. I really don't like it. I don't give a... It's like, it's your job to deal with non-compliant people who are going to cause disturbances, even then, they don't really do that much. But it's like, suck it up, you baby. Again, if this officer feels the same way as he does, I want that officer fired. I don't think that officer does feel that way, so, whatever. But if any officer agrees with him on, imagine all the trauma they must go through, fire them.
People of that sort.
Also, I have to point out, do you really think LA cops, that's all they deal with all the time? That's really the minority of problems. Also, dealing with drunks, I can't tell if you're aware of Mario Gonzalez or not, and you're trying to dismiss him. I can't tell. But if you really think it's just cops in LA, first of all, LA is not a bunch of drunks, gangbangers, domestic abusers, etc., etc. That's a minority. A lot of the cops aren't dealing with that because I'm like, that's not really big disturbance calls that are often in, say, Santa Monica or Beverly Hills. Also, you act like cops are the only ones that have to deal with this day in and day out. You know people live in the deep hood, and that's all they get all the time, all day, every day, more than police, right? And you guys never talk about them. Often when the police abuse them unjustly, you guys attack them, but... South Central, downtown, East LA, Skid Row, Compton, that's not all of LA.
It has a psychological effect. So my point is that whenever we see body cam footage of some citizen acting like a lunatic around the police, we're always asked to see things from that person's perspective, to understand the pain and trauma that led to that behavior and so on. Well, what about the pain and trauma of the guy wearing the camera?
What about it? Because he's getting hurled mean words? Was pain and trauma? Are we falling into the leftist argument now? The kind of like words are violence and, oh no, someone said something to me a lot on the internet, mean words, I'm traumatized. Are we falling into this? Is why I say he's just become an SJW. Again, I'm like, the cops hurled insults? I don't care. Suck it up and deal with it. It's your job.
Might we consider things from his perspective too sometimes? I know that if I had to deal with people like that...
A lot of the people who talk about police brutality do see it through the cops' perspective, and they say it was wrong anyway. These are straw man arguments, but...
Woman every day, and worse, it wouldn't take long to turn me into a jaded, aggressive jerk.
Well then, unfortunately, a lot of cops like him. And second of all, that's not what you deal with every day, so...
In fact, I already am a jaded, aggressive jerk, and I only work in media. So the majority of police critics, if they had to deal with stuff like that all the time, they'd be far worse than the worst police officer that they...
Yeah, so if they had to deal with that all the time, they'd be worse than the worst police officer, the corrupt ones that kill people, the gangbangers in police that kill people and get that shit covered up. Chicago police, oh my god, they're the most corrupted. NYPD? No people in these places. Look, I've grown up in areas that were bad. Okay? I've gotten into fights. I almost got jumped. I've had a gun to my head. I've gotten robbed. Okay? I've been in these areas to deal with this. You know what we do when we live there? We're just like, it is what it is. I have friends who've been shot, and they're just like, what are you gonna do? Like, I have a friend that got shot in a drive-by as a collateral damage. It wasn't aimed at him. We're just like, fuck, dude, what are you gonna do? We're not crying and traumatized about it. Right? Again, I had a gun to my head. I never cry or traumatized about it. And these people are like, cops get insulted all the time. And that should be... I would rather have my cops tougher than the people living in those areas. Like, if you're sending a cop to Deep Hood, I want a cop that's tougher than their toughest hood rat. I'm saying that's what we should be going for. Alright? I don't think people in these areas should be tougher than the police. If they're so fragile, and again, this is not aimed at this officer because I don't know him. If they're this fragile, I want them all yeeted. Every single one that's fragile should be yeeted.
Criticize.
That's what I was saying. These people will be worse than the worst officers. Good to know that if you get insulted every day, that will turn you into a lunatic. I'm saying the worst officers, a corrupt lunatic that would murder people and get it covered up. Damn, I guess a lot of people in this country, I guess you think they really are fragile. Shit, or have no morals. I guess you can drop your principles and morals if you're insulted enough, but okay.
Two other things to think about. First, we don't talk enough about the entitlement problem and how it intersects with these issues. This woman has a sense of entitlement so pronounced that it's driven her into basically madness. She's furious that the officer would dare pull her over to enforce the law. She feels that she's entitled to do whatever she wants, whenever she wants, and anybody who deigns to prevent her is, to her mind, effectively a murderer.
Yeah, but what does that have to do with anything? Who cares? There are people like that. So what? The lady's a bitch, and she's a racist bitch. But so what? That's what the cops deal with. Just, again, suck it up.
She's so entitled that even when the officer cuts her a massive break, she still isn't satisfied. To have even been inconvenienced is an affront that she cannot bear. Now, she might be a somewhat extreme case, but this kind of entitlement to one...
Wait, you just said it wasn't... You said this is what officers have to deal with all the time. Now it's an extreme case? Which is it? Okay.
Degree or another is extraordinarily common. It's not the thing that cops run into
No, it's
every
not.
single day. Just consider the fact that in a great many of the police body cam videos or witness cell phone videos we've seen.
This is actually not true. This is not the majority of what they deal with every single day. A lot of cops won't even pull you over for being on your phone. There were some good LAPD officers. I just had this the other day, coming back from the gym. Dude at the stoplight on their phone. Bicycle cop, not bicycle, like bike cop, like motorcycle cop. Comes up, and he was cool about it. Because for some reason, I don't know why bike cops are really cool. The motorcycle cops are just really cool. And what he did, he just pulled up, asked to roll down the window, and yo, don't do that. That's it. And we just moved on.
The perp who was allegedly the victim of police brutality was committing a crime.
Here we go. Here comes the bootlicking. Ready? Watch this.
And then resisted arrest when the police came to enforce the law. They act shocked and angered by the fact that the law is being applied to them.
You don't get to be killed for resisting arrest. What did Mario Gonzalez do? Because like I said, I'm bringing this up because he was just murdered by police. That warranted the amount of force applied to him that killed him. Really, I like this. So if you don't... So there's these people who bootlick like this, I only have to say one thing. If you don't follow the law and you don't do what the officer says, anything that escalates from there is your fault. Okay, the people on the right who believe this, shut the fuck up, put on your mask, close your business, stay inside, do what you're fucking told. When new gun laws are passed, get on your knees and hand them your guns and go, yes, please, sorry, sir. And hey, if you didn't close your business or you didn't stop going to church, if you told the police, leave me alone, I'm not leaving, and the police roughed you up, what am I mean, I'll go by the right's logic, should have obeyed the law. The rights outrage because lady in Iowa just was arrested for keeping her business open and refusing to close. And I'm like, why are you mad? She didn't obey the law. We had a lockdown in California and said, oh, you have to wear your mask everywhere you go outside. And there's a curfew. And the first thing I did was go outside. And I'm like, this is stupid. I'm just going to ignore that. But I'm not a bootlicker. Right? If I get arrested, I'm just going to sue the city. Because I'm not the one justifying everything the police do. These people are. So when they come for your guns, don't resist. And if you get killed, I mean, you resisted.
They're so self-entitled that they expect they can refuse to be arrested and the cop will just go, well, okay, never mind, sir. Sorry to have bothered you on this fine afternoon.
I'd really like to know what Mario Gonzalez did. Why that wasn't de-escalated. He was literally walking away. They were trying... Maybe, I'll make another video about him, because that's a long story.
Even expected to believe that the people who resist arrest, who actually initiate violent encounters with a person, we're even expected to believe that the people who resist arrest, who actually initiate violent encounters with police.
Okay, so this is why I like to know, because again, the story happens right after the body camera footage of Mario Gonzalez gets released. What violence did he initiate? I would like to know. What violence did Daniel Shaver initiate? What violence did Willie McCoy initiate? I'm sorry, I don't remember the other guy. The guy that got the noise complaint at 3 a.m. and came out with his gun because the police didn't announce themselves, and as soon as he saw the police, he put it down and got shot in the back. After he put it down, like, 10, 20 seconds ago? How did they initiate? What did they do? This is what I'm saying. They make excuses for these people.
Who choose of their own volition to create a violent situation with police.
For example, what did, Lieutenant Rosario do to cause a violent situation with police? He literally froze and did nothing because the police were giving contradictory orders and they got violent first. Anyway, I just wanted to cover it because that was just an insane amount of bootlicking, and I think that was the worst take out there. Again, if you're an officer that agrees with this take, I don't want you being an officer. I think you're too mentally weak if you have trauma from being yelled at all the time by mean people. When I know average people who've gone through way worse on a daily basis, and they're not little whiny babies. Alright, so that's it. Stay safe, don't get shot. Seriously, it's not good for your health. Don't do it.